Drew here, and I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet because I feel that there's a lot of good reviews of this series out there already, and I'm pretty much only doing this because I've been saying I was going to do it for a really long time, and I don't want to fail to deliver on my promises. But Only Murders in the Building, it's a show that Steve Martin has co-created. Watch it. It's a lot of fun. That's really all there is to say, but giving a little bit more detail, I think that this show rises and falls on this concept that it's kind of a parody of the true crime genre. And this is awesome because it allows the series simultaneously to be a murder mystery as these characters played by Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez strive to figure out who committed this murder in their building. And they're only going to solve murders in the building, which is where the show gets its clever title. And it also allows, as they're solving this mystery, for Steve Martin to make both astute observations about the true crime genre and why, as a culture, we're so fixated on it, and how it simultaneously dehumanizes victims, and how it can be an unhealthy obsession in a large degree, but why we're so fixated on it. But it also allows for a great deal of humor as they parody a lot of the conventions of the true crime podcast genre. And this is just, it's a lot of fun. Example, in the second episode, at the beginning of the episode, Martin Short's character, Oliver Putman, a former theater director who is fallen on hard times and is on the brink of being evicted from this building in which they all live. He observes that in the second episode of true crime podcasts, that's when they make you feel sympathy for the victim. And hence their job, as they make their second episode of the true crime podcast that they're making about this murder that took place in their building, they're going to try and find out things about the victim to make the person more sympathetic. And of course, the episode parodies this somewhat brilliantly by showing that perhaps there was nothing likable about the person. In fact, some of the people in the building feel a greater degree of sympathy for a cat that recently died than for this individual. And obviously there's a lot more of things in that ilk. The conventions of the true crime podcast, it's a pretty good conceit because it allows them to break the fourth wall without really breaking it, like to point out all the obvious ways in which the crime and the mystery that they're trying to solve is fitting into the template of the genre. And I think that there's a lot of funny moments to do with that. And on top of that, I think that a lot of the humor derives from the fact that, you've got a few different aspects that make this funny. First, you've got Charles Hayden Savage, played by Steve Martin, who is an actor who played a detective in a show once and has seemingly not gotten much work since. But between him and Martin Short's character, a former theater director, you have these two individuals who everything that they're going through as they are, within the confines of the show, a real life situation investigating this potential murder, they contextualize everything in terms of how it relates to themselves in these roles that they've had in their lives. So everything gets filtered through the performance of playing a detective for Charles Hayden Savage. And for Oliver Putman, for instance, he views the murderer and finding this murderer as somewhat akin to casting the lead in a play. And he's trying to figure out almost as much who would make the most interesting killer as who the actual killer is. So you've got that going on. But then there's a really good foil for them in Mabel Mora, played by Selena Gomez. And I feel like if this show becomes a huge hit, it's going to be in a large part due to her presence in this show. I think that they could have cast, another, actor of the same age range as Steve Martin and Martin Short, but casting Selena Gomez, it brings in, her considerable fan base. But also I think it's important because it allows for these there's this generational divide between the characters that gets mined for a lot of laughs. But also on top of that, I think that it's important. There's very much the sense that Mabel is not from the same affluent background as Charles and Oliver. And I think that this also creates a gap between the characters, but also the fact that, without getting into spoilers, this is not something that she's viewing the same way that they are. She's not viewing it from the context of, a podcast about a person that kind of distances her from the person emotionally. She actually, this is personal for her, and she's continually flabbergasted by the ways in which everything that Charles and Oliver do gets filtered through their careers as actors and theater directors. So to me, I think that she brings a very, very needed dynamic to the group, and that it was very, very smart to include this character in the show. The three together are just gold. And I think, though, of the three, that Martin Short is by far the standout performance and character here. He has so many hilarious moments, so many funny observations and one-liners, and his delivery is perfect. But also, surprisingly, I feel they've given all of these characters backstories that they're slowly revealing over the course of the 3 episodes that have been released so far. And they haven't revealed all of it yet, but that are surprisingly emotional. The show is played fairly straight, even though it is, I would call it a comedy. I think that there is an element of, this is, also a sincere attempt at a murder mystery, and the characters are given sincere backstories, and there is development of that. As I said, it's played very straight. And I think that what's surprising to me is, not only does Martin Short have the funniest moments, but I think he also has the most emotionally stirring story, as you see his broken relationship with his son and how he's fallen on hard times and is just trying to find some way to get back on top again. I think that he's a very, very compelling character, and I think that if you watch this show for Martin Short and Steve Martin, you're really going to enjoy that character. And I think that the chemistry that has always existed between Steve Martin and Martin Short is very, very much on display here, with the added bonus of Selena Gomez in the mix. So don't go expecting this to be a really, really cerebral, you're making tons of deductions mystery like Mare of Easttown or some of the more serious entrants in the genre. So far, the mystery has been kind of paint by numbers from my perspective. It feels like the typical, okay, here's a red herring person, here's another red herring person, and you're just slowly eliminating suspects. It's kind of following that format. I feel that it has a great atmosphere, though. It's not like super stylistic as a show, but they did a really good job with the costumes and the set design, particularly the set design, because I'm not particularly fond of New York City. It's nothing against any of you who live there. It's just that there's so many shows taking place there that it just feels a little bit done to death to me. But this show, they very, very seldom leave the apartment building, and I think that helps because they've given each character very, very tailored apartments that add a lot to our understanding of them as individuals. And when they visit other people's apartments, it's the same way. There's just a lot of texture and a lot of characterization in these apartments. And it's very, very good set design, as I was saying. Very, very intriguing and interesting constantly. The score by Siddhartha Khosla, it also deserves a shout out. It's very, very wonderful, and it adds a lot to the atmosphere and the style of the show. So to me, like, in this day and age, I feel like the greatest shows, oftentimes what puts them over the edge is their music, and this show has a great score on par with some of the best scores on television. So on the whole, like, it's just a really, really fun caper with a lot of humor and wit and some surprisingly insightful stuff as well. So I'm really enjoying it, but let me know what you thought in the comments. If you're interested in seeing upcoming reviews of this show, please let me know. I'm still on the fence about whether or not I'm going to do them. If you're interested in seeing those, please consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, thanks for watching.